Funding environment between Europe and the US is quite different. It's very important in Europe to have comparables. I've seen many venture firms who are looking for something that has already been done. Someone else has proven that this kind of thing can be successful. I think in the US mindset, you want to be the first to do something you really believe in because it can be a huge success, right? It's okay to take risks if the outcome can be exponentially better. The most surprising thing about the US healthcare system, everything is a negotiation in a way. Coming from a European system, you have defined rates for everything. But here in the US, it feels like prices will vary considerably based on who is the provider, who is the insurer, what's the context. When you're doing rehabilitation in a hospital in Europe, you have doctors that monitor your progress or physiotherapists. Once they are comfortable with the level that you've reached, you go home. Here, you have case managers that's on the phone every week with payers, and they are discussing, oh, can we keep that patient because I see he's making progress, and the insurance or the payer will be, no, we want this patient out, so you cannot keep that. I think it allows for a lot of performance in the system because everybody's putting a lot of pressure on making sure that we have the right KPI, that we do the procedures that are really needed. But it also adds a layer of complexity, intriguing to discover. The regulatory pathway in Europe and the US is very telling of the difference in mindset and how pragmatic the US is in a way. When you want to get a device cleared, in the US you go to the FDA, you submit your file and they look at it, and if everything is in order, you're allowed to market it. And technically, it's the same in Europe. You have authorities that are there to clear your device. But it's a lot of work to do such a file, and there are very high stakes because once you get your product approved, it's a big milestone for your company. And so, of course, you don't want to mess that up. And so what happens is that in the US, you're allowed to go to the FDA in advance and ask questions. This is what I intend to do. These are some of the questions I have. If I do all that, should I get approved? And that's very effective because it allows you to avoid spending 2 years doing something that has no chance of being approved by the agency. In Europe, you're not allowed to talk to anyone before you submit the file. So it could happen that you design your clinical trial in a certain way. You spend millions or tens of millions of dollars, submit to the regulatory authorities, and maybe they don't like it, and you have no chance of getting the device approved. But the result is that people more and more have been going FDA first, and not because the standards are lower, because actually the FDA standards are extremely high, but the fact that you can discuss in advance just to make sure that you're doing the right thing is just so game-changing as an entrepreneur. Of course, timing is super important. The FDA has very clear norms around timing. They have a number of days they are supposed to answer your submission. So in our case, it's been 6 months for the FDA between submission and getting the clearance. I think in Europe, there are less constraints around the number of questions that people can ask, how many times they can ask questions, and how much time they have to review your answers. So it could be up to 6, 9, 12 months. Suddenly you're a company that lives on 2 continents, 2 time zones, and with 2 ways of working. And we've had to adapt to that. The way people take decisions and communicate is, again, very different between the US and Europe. It's a lot more of face-to-face and relationship building maybe in Europe, while it's more transactional here in the US. In Europe, people really want to understand everything, all the contexts. Why are we doing this? Why are you asking me that? People in the US are more focused on efficiency, like what's my role? What am I supposed to bring? What we've done is we've tried to mix cultures. So both hiring people locally here from the US who understand the system, who are able to talk to patients, to customers, but also bring people from Europe to help the local hires that we've made understand why people react the way they react over there. It's required a lot of energy to make sure that everyone understands each other.